We've been talking about a big boy dragon whose legend has been known far before Dragonflight ever launched. And that legend is Galakrond. That's right. Evidently, Taliesin and Evitel think they've figured out when and how Galakrond is going to show up in this expansion. We've been thinking about it this entire time. Galakrond, if you don't know him, is a giant, massive, probably the biggest dragon in the history of WoW, who had gone mad thanks to Titan experiments and started eating all the other dragons. Now, at some point, we believe, and the fight, by the way, with Galakrond is when the whole dragon aspect thing was created. So we keep thinking, hey, eventually we're going to get a Galakrond fight. Well, we may be closer to that than we think. Let's see what Taliesin and Evitel have to say about Galakrond and his first appearance into the game.
Sponsored by Squarespace.
Technically, he is already in the game. He's a skeleton in Northrend. But this will be his first live appearance. Let's go.
Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and today we are talking Galakrond. We are
right,
talking
Galakrond.
dragon riding, and we are talking the Galakrond dragon riding raid boss fight in World of Warcraft Dragonflight patch. Okay, hang on a minute, okay? Let's back up a
thank you
minute
for the
here
happy
and let me
anniversary. Is that still
explain
going on
what's
today? Thank you.
Yesterday, as I am writing this, Blizzard held the first of their new WoWcast YouTube episodes, where devs sit on a sofa and chat about, in this case, Embers of Neltharion, in a pre-recorded, carefully edited chill session, and it's great.
It was
I mean,
pre-recorded
it's basically just
for
a
sure.
big patch feature advert, but it's got a good vibe, and frankly, Morgan Day and Maria Hamilton are just so gosh darn likable. I could happily listen to them tell me that my house has just burned down for half an hour, so having them discuss my favorite video game instead is a win-win as far as I'm concerned. But the thing that has really got everyone excited was at the very end of the broadcast, where community manager and host Bethany Stout asked if there were any reveals of future content that the pair could tease, and Maria
I watched this, but I must have missed this.
absolutely did give a fairly massive tease.
There have been a lot of questions about Nizdormu and what's going to happen with Nizdormu. You know, he's fated to become Murazon.
Right.
Soon we will get some, let's say, resolution to that. We actually have, you know, Chromie and Evil Chromie, Morchi, and Murazon and Nizdormu, and then we gotta have Galakrond because you know everybody wants to see what happens with Galakrond.
Everybody.
Yeah, so we gotta have Galakrond out there, and then Iridikron and what he's up to.
I must have missed this part of it. I watched this entire thing. I must have lapsed. I must have started browsing something on my phone. I don't know what happened. I didn't hear this.
And spoilers, it is not a good thing. There's some cool timey-wimey badness that I would anticipate if I were a betting person.
So to be clear here, she revealed that in the future of this expansion,
well,
we
Solar,
would be dealing
you can
with
do
the
the fight
whole
here.
Nozdormu Murazon situation, encountering
you don't need a
evil
guild.
Chromie, who she called Morchi. Following the whole Infinite Dragonflight names are just anagrams of who they used to be rule. That there would be timey-wimey stuff, and that Galakrond would feature in some way too. And this is all, frankly, very exciting. The very obvious foreshadowing of Chromie setting out to find a way of stopping Nozzy becoming his photo-negative future self was laid out in Thaldras's questing at the beginning of the expansion, and I've said right from the start that I thought 10.2 was going to be an Ulduar style away from the main action patch, which would be the Infinite Dragonflight patch.
Number one
and
thing.
After Maria's delicious, cruel tease, it seems many of you agree.
Number one thing for me with the Infinite Dragonflight is that whole black dragons with the cracks and the blue lightning coming through. Give me a mount. I need an Infinite Dragonflight mount. I know we have the time walking one that you can get, but I need more. Give me multiple Infinite Dragonflight mounts. That's the coolest skin for any dragon in the game, in my opinion.
With me, and that's nice, but honestly I feel it could just as easily be a left turn 10.15 mega dungeon thing, or even a 10.3 climax of the whole expansion thing. That's a topic for another day, another video, and much discussion will be had, don't you worry. But for now, I want to focus on Maria's confirmation that Galakrond will feature, because this is a big deal. Like a really big deal. We're going to remind you of Galakrond's story in just a minute, so don't worry about that. But most importantly for this video is that he's big. really big. Like the biggest dragon ever big. That's his skeleton in Northrend.
Massive.
That big. And
Galakrond
having his
was
return
massive.
confirmed for the first time, even though it's something literally every WoW player has been excited about from the second Dragonflight was announced, is big news. And it's especially exciting for me because it got me thinking again about an idea that I've been going over in my head for a little while now. That is the dragon riding boss fight. Dragon riding is one of the best new features of Dragonflight.
I imagine Galakrond being like a single boss fight, like an Onyxia, you know, where he's not an end raid boss, but I mean, this would be a very cool way to do it. A dragon riding boss fight. That sounds badass.
It's fun, it's fast, it adds an extra dimension to the day-to-day gameplay loop, and it's as close to universally loved as a new feature on World of Warcraft possibly can be. So Blizzard love it too. There is absolutely no way that it won't become a permanent feature of the game.
I need the new dragon riding skin
and
from this
probably
raid.
Expanded into the old world, and that's great. But as far as Dragonflight goes, it would seem like a massive waste if we didn't have a proper dragon riding boss fight at some stage.
And the reason why I agree that it'll be a dragon riding fight is the sheer size of Galakrond. I mean, we've talked about it. Deathwing is like the size of Galakrond's toenail. So, I mean, I am a badass tank. I'm a big boy. I know it. I can tank him. I'm sure I can. But the fight would be highly unflattering. We'd be essentially fighting one of his toes the entire fight. So I think, yes, a dragon riding fight would be the best way to handle a boss that would be the sheer size of Galakrond.
I don't know about you, but for me, the return of the world's biggest ever dragon would seem like the perfect opportunity to do it.
Yeah,
and here's the thing. This is obviously a
Blizzard.
speculation video, but like all the best speculation videos, there is a fair bit of evidence I would like to present to you that not only are Blizz planning such a fight, but they have been subtly training players in all the skills they would need for the fight throughout the expansion so far. So join us as we talk dragon riding
for this
boss
fight the whole time.
how it would work, and the evidence that it is coming with Galakrond. Okay, go, 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 go.
Yes, yes.
So first things first, why would you even want a dragon riding boss fight in the first place? We all know that vehicle boss fights in WoW are boring, annoying, and janky as all shit. So why would you encourage such a terrible idea, Tally? This is why everyone hates you, Tally. This is why I sent you all those sweary DMs, Tally. And yeah, I get it. The history of vehicular combat in WoW is a fairly short and damning one. Vehicle fights suck. We shouldn't do vehicle fights. That's something I completely agree with. But dragon riding is...
You guys remember, like, mounted fighting was like a feature on the World of Warcraft? I think it was Wrath of the Lich King box. Mounted fighting, and I think we just got the Jester shit. And that whole, oh my god, the fucking Crusade camp that we did quests in. We got, like, the whole jousting thing. That was, like, the only mounted fighting we have. So maybe this is finally it. Maybe it finally comes.
A vehicle in that sense. Dragon riding
I like
is
jousting back at Wrath.
Dragon riding is fast, it's dynamic, it's instinctive, and if you are one of the 99% of people that doesn't get motion sickness from it, then zooming around the Dragon Isles, swooping low over lakes and ridges at breakneck speeds has been one of the expansion's great pleasures so far. And it's versatile too, as proven by the numerous different ways that Blizz have already found to utilize it in races, world quests, and even a dungeon so far.
Dragon riding's a W.
I think it would be an incredible tool to be used in a huge set-piece boss fight, and I think it's important that it happens in Dragonflight, because I think Dragonflight has a very important mission it needs to achieve. Well, it needs to rescue WoW, get people playing again after they all off in Shadowlands. Sure, there's that, but also we need to get all Quantum Leap and right the wrong of the Deathwing fight. When Deathwing was revealed as the final boss of Cataclysm, players were promised right from the start that the expansion would climax in a huge fight against the gigantic city-squishing monster himself, and players were rightfully hyped for years, speculating about how this was going to happen.
Yeah, there were even leaks of the Deathwing visage form being uploaded into the game, and it never showed up. That fight must have undergone a lot of iterations. And the final version we got was not the only version of the Deathwing fight that they thought of putting in. Unfortunately, they decided to go with the lava tentacle hentai fight, which wasn't the best choice, I think.
Would Blizz realize the ultimate dragon battle? Well, I'm glad you asked. With the spine of Deathwing, which was fine, and with the madness of Deathwing, where you're attacking angry moles and pimples on his fingers, which was shit. I'm sorry, maybe you really enjoyed Madness of Deathwing. Maybe it's your favorite fight. Maybe you love it so much you want to marry it and you named your kids after it. And that's okay. You're not wrong. Because even if we all agree that Spine and Madness are great raid fights, I think we can all agree that they are not the ultimate dragon fight. As much as they are fighting blobs and warts against an epic backdrop. And yeah, like, how else are they supposed to do it? How else are 20-odd players supposed to take on a void-corrupted super dragon other than that? Well, that was a question for Cataclysm WoW, because now with Dragon Riding, we have our answer. Because for the first time, WoW has a tool it can utilize for tackling enemies as big as Deathwing without having to dick around on his back or prise his fingers off a ledge so that he falls in the sea. For the first time, there is a base gameplay feature that everyone uses every day that would allow Blizzard to actually let us go toe-to-toe with such a gigantic monster. Put to bed the vague disappointment of the Deathwing battle once and for all, and in the expansion called Dragonflight, actually deliver the ultimate dragon boss raid fight.
This would be such a cool fight. I'm so excited.
We just need a massive dragon to fight, right? Well, if you need a big dragon, then frankly, they don't come any bigger than Galakrond.
The biggest of them all.
And now he has been confirmed for the first time as featuring in this expansion. It's probably a good time to remind ourselves of who he is and why he is such a perfect fit for our ultimate dragon riding boss fight. Dragon history time, fam. Long ago, when the world was still new and all dragons were still barely evolved proto-drakes, one began to grow larger than all of the others, Galakrond. At first, everyone assumed this was because Galakrond was a total dragon Chad, but it soon became clear his growth spurt was down to him eating his fellow proto-drakes, consuming their life essence before throwing them up again. And it was this cannibalization that seemed to make him grow so much in size. If that wasn't enough, the proto-drakes that Galakrond vomited up seemed to be infected with some version of a plague of undeath. They became mindless zombies whose bites could infect healthy proto-drakes, spreading the same undeath to them. And the more Galakrond ate, the more he grew, but also the more he transformed. He became mutated in horrible ways, with extra limbs, wings, and even eyes growing all across his body. Realizing that something had to be done about the giant drake-eating, undead drake-vomiting super mutant mega monster, who also, by the way, bit off Titan Keeper Tyr's hand, 5 proto-drakes who were brave and strong and best friends in the whole world teamed up to take down Galakrond in an epic confrontation in what would later be known as Dragonblight, winning the day with their super genius plan of stuffing a massive rock in his mouth. The tenacity of these 5 proto-drakes so impressed Tyr that he convinced the other keepers they should be granted powers and made into guardians of Azeroth. And lo, Alex Straza, Nozdormu, Ysera, Malagos, and Neltharion, Neltharion, not even a little bit, became the dragon aspects, and the rest is history. I mean, all the previous stuff was history as well, but you get it. Now, I don't know if Galakrond is actually going to be the final boss of the expansion. That has looked unlikely since the Incarnates were released at the end of the first raid, and Iridikron became the obvious main antagonist of the expansion. Honestly, the way Maria talks about it, I'm actually now leaning towards any potential boss fight against Galakrond being part of a timey-wimey
we pull a giant sword out of Silithus and use it to kill Galakrond. That'd be wild.
Back in time and fight the actual original Galakrond. That would certainly be the easiest way to get us into
I don't see it happening.
But however,
I don't see it happening in our current timeline. Kind of like what he's talking about right now. I think we're going to go back in time for sure. I think that's going to be like some kind of time travel instance, you know, where we go in with the bronze dragonflight and we relive the Galakrond fight kind of thing.
It actually happens. Galakrond is still a perfect example to use for our dragon riding boss fight. So we are going to use him here to create our ultimate hypothetical dragon riding encounter. Maybe there could be elements of these ideas used in the mega dungeon, or maybe there could be a different huge dragon to fight by the end of the expansion, like Chromatus or a mega empowered Iridikron, whatever it may be. So next step, how does this
By the way, he mentioned the mega dungeon. Evidently the new mega dungeon is going to be so big that it's going to be split into 4 instances. That's wild.
Down. All right, now for the fun bit. How would we even work this in a way that makes it fun and worthwhile?
Yeah.
How do you do a dragon riding dragon boss fight? Well, for clues, we can look at how Blizz has already used dragon riding beyond
some
simple
racing
getting from
through
A to B.
rings
Dragon
during the
racing
fight,
is
that'd
the
be
obvious
cool.
example, where on advanced courses there are multiple obstacles, flying blobs of fire and arcane energy to dodge. But where it gets really interesting is the dragon riding world quests. Fly through rings in a free-form open space to collect supplies or drop flags. Fly through bugs in a swarm to squish them dead. Pick up Quidditch balls and use the extra action button to fire them through the goal. All simple variations on the system that could easily be utilized in a boss
You
fight.
could totally have people flying through rings to dodge hits from Galakrond, killing ads by running into them, and shooting at Galakrond the same way he's right. All these mechanics could be used in a fight.
Everyone could take part in and enjoy, and which show 4 ways that dragon riding can be utilized: dodging things on a gauntlet,
That's 2 mega
collectional
dungeons,
delivery, dogfighting, and bombing. And I think a dragon riding instance would make use of all 3. I think the best way to explain this and to show you how I think it could work is just through creating a very specific example fight, which we are going to do. I want to show you what I think we should base this entire encounter on. Star Fox 64 or Starwing or Lilac Wars, depending on your region.
God, I love this game. If you remember this game, you used to be able to hold the joystick down for long enough that you could move the 64 around the screen and all the characters would look at it and their heads would move. And wow, I used to think that was so cool.
Nintendo 64 games of all time. I bought it at release because I'm very old. Firstly, it came with a rumble pack, which impossibly made the N64 controller even bigger and heavier, but it
weighed
also
like
gave us one of my favorite video game levels of all time. Katina. Now, if you're not a middle-aged loser like me, then I promise you, it is impossible to communicate to you how exciting this dogfight. After 2.5 games of Star Fox being...
Yes, this dogfight was so cool. I used to love this. I also hated Slippy, the little frog. I used to intentionally kill her. I would fight the entire... I thought Falco was fine, Pepe was fine, but I hated Slippy so much that I would intentionally chase her down when this fight started, kill her first, and then start the fight.
A really, really good
scrolling
shooter on rails. Suddenly in this level, the shackles were off as players were plunged into a massive 360-degree dogfight, battling to take down swarms of enemy ships before a huge battleship made its way to the base in the center. And if you failed, that ship went all Independence Day and wiped out the Goodies' stronghold. When I got to this stage, I can safely say my young innocent self had never played a game that felt so epic, so cinematic, so high stakes, and which I felt such agency in the outcome of as Katina. And if I were a Blizz dev trying to make the ultimate dragon boss fight using dragon riding, this is where I would start. Okay, let's put this into WoW. So first of all, we need a base to defend from attack. One that is very Dragonflight specific. Something we know is going to appear. Something very precious that others will want to attack and that we are pledged to defend. Oh, I know. How about a new world tree?
Finally,
no spoilers, please. I still don't know what goes on with the new world tree.
Wow, things are going great. Videos are coming along. Our website is perfect. Are you kidding me? What is that? Well, thank goodness this video is being sponsored by Squarespace. As you know, Squarespace is chock full of features like video uploads and social media integration. But most importantly, it has an amazingly simple editing interface, which makes fixing even the most annoying little issues a breeze. So I'll just go in and edit this image and... Who even uses Markdown anymore? I do. That's who. And whoever wants to, really. It's a feature, but come on. You know, I think it's time to fully embrace the future. Thanks to Squarespace's brilliant new click and drag editor, I can just replicate my frankly shoddy HTML with a few clicks. I can add text and move it around these square spaces. I get it now. And then add images, which I can upload, no need to go there, or use their handy image library, which saves all of the useful and not so useful images I've already uploaded to our site. Anyway, peace out, Markdown. Good riddance. See you literally never again because, I mean, look at these beautiful square spaces. And once I've got it all aligned just how I like it, I can finally replace that broken image with what it should have been all along. Oh yeah. There we go. That's the one. Broken links and bad HTML just getting to your head. Embrace the beauty of the square spaces and head to squarespace.com for a free website trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/TaliesinEvitel and use code TaliesinEvitel to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That's squarespace.com/TaliesinEvitel. Oh,
I prefer circle space.
We know that there's one growing in the Emerald Dream. It seems a pretty safe bet that it's
spoil
going to appear
shit,
before the end of the expansion.
Take it easy on this. Take it easy. I don't want to hear this shit.
There definitely seems to be an Emerald Dream patch
or zone,
or maybe just Mega Dungeon coming soon in some form, and we know where it looks like the new tree might appear. So for the sake of this exercise, let's imagine that we've had a raid based around protecting that growing world tree from primalist attack, starting in the Emerald Dream itself. Standard raid boss fighting, just in a cool world tree environment. I'd be totally down with that. But then, what if towards the end of the raid, it switches up a bit? Ysera decides that the only way to defend the tree from the onslaught is to manifest it, ready or not, into the Dragon Isles. And lo, suddenly we have the Dream Tree, or whatever it's called, in the Anaran Plains Basin. Here is our perfect base to defend. And of course, we already have our Independence Day ship, Galakrond. Come to eat him a tree. Maybe he's coming all the way from Northrend, or maybe he could be there in the plains the whole time, circling the new tree, throwing out the odd fire attack, and many forces at the force field protecting it. Something already established the dragons can do in the Emerald Gardens questline. Or maybe the other aspects are fighting him in the sky above the tree and keeping him occupied, and he disables them one by one, and that's the time limit, whichever you like best. The important thing is that Galakrond is the thing that's going to destroy this tree. But the thing about Galakrond, he's got a whole bunch of zombie dragons that follow him around, right? And these would be the equivalent of the ships that we dogfight with in Katina, and the first part of the battle where dragon riding gets to shine. The first stage of this fight I'm going to call Defending the Tree, where the group needs to fend off attacking zombie dragons whilst also helping the green dragons to prepare to strike at Galakrond when the time comes. And the two world quests we will utilize for this stage, the two ways of dragon riding that Blizzard already has players doing in the game, is flag placing and bug squishing. Because yes, I know what half the comments in this video will be already at this stage. I know that lots of you will be down there saying, but I don't want to be forced into dragon riding. I hate it. I can't do it. And this is an elitist gate on my ability to partake in the raid. And actually, I totally agree with...
What? Who doesn't know how to dragon ride? What the fuck is wrong with you?
With that, which is why this stage of the fight needs two different groups doing two different things. The first is the dog fighting group themselves. These are the guys who are doing the real Katina stuff, swooping, swerving, flying through the air, and thrusting through zombie dragons to take them out, just like in that bug squish, or even in the open world with other players if you have war mode on. The reason forward thrust is suddenly enough to take out an entire zombie dragon, these players have been empowered by the green Dragonflight with a special buff. A buff which is limited to only half the raid, enforcing these two different teams. Team 2's job is to fly around the environment collecting supplies and deliver them to the top of the world tree, supplies that will be needed for the next stage of the fight. So they'll be flying down to ground level to pick up supplies like in the world quest, and then up to the top of the tree again to deliver them like the flag dropping world quest. Maybe periodically an enemy force with a big catapult or something arrives at ground level, which will need group 2 to do some good old-fashioned ground combat on. This way everyone in the raid has an important dragon riding job, but at two different dragon riding skill levels. Those who are able are the dog fighters, swooping around, avoiding damaging hazards and taking out zombie dragons, being all Top Gun. And those who only need to fly between various points across the water, seeking out those supplies and taking them back, and occasionally fighting some mobs on
different
the ground.
levels of dragon riding for different
the
levels of
scale
skill
of the fight will make it
players.
exciting and high stakes. And then comes phase 2. All of the zombie dragons are taken care of, and it is time to attack Galakrond himself. I would have him landed near the tree and is properly attacking the shield with huge breath attacks, because this is the bombing run. The equivalent of the end of Katina, where you fire on the Independence Day ship, but you might more accurately compare it to the end of A New Hope. Because all those supplies the delivery team got from the top of the tree, that is the launch pad. This utilizes the dragon riding gameplay from the Quidditch World Quest, where players collect glowing orb bombs and fly towards Galakrond, avoiding the Dragon Racing style floating lava and arcane balls getting in their way, and of course his massive breath attacks towards the tree that they are flying from, and then when they get in range, launching the orbs into weak spots on the world's biggest dragon.
Shoot his eyeballs.
Just like you do to score
Shoot the
goals
eyeballs.
in
He's
the
got
World
eyes
Quest.
everywhere. Shoot the eyes.
As soon as you're in range and facing the right general direction, you get the prompt, you hit your extra action button and launch the thing. See a big satisfying explosion on the giant dragon, turn around and head back for another orb to do it all over again. Hey man, if it works for like
this sounds
every
like
Star
actually
Wars
a very
movie,
cool
it works
fight.
for our ultimate dragon fight. And if you really wanted to have an option for non-dragon riders, maybe there could be a ground group on the tree protecting the orbs from mobs that have made it through to fight in a more traditional way. Eventually Galakrond goes down. His new skeleton is a permanent feature on the Anaran Plains outside the New World Tree, which is now safe.
Cool.
The Night Elves have a new home, and lo,
I like that when the world changes. I used to like it when like they had the head of Onyxia hanging outside of Stormwind or something like these changes to the world that occur because of things that you've done. That kind of stuff's cool.
Ultimate dragon boss fight in WoW, all thanks to dragon riding. The main problem I see with this as a fight is that it's very much an action set piece, and beyond organizing the two groups and coordinating efficiently, it's basically all just gameplay skills. There's not the same kind of tactical depth that you'd expect from a climactic WoW.
It would not be as hard of a fight as a regular raid boss, that's for sure. That's why I kind of think it'd be its own instance instead of like an end of raid boss. I feel like it'd be like an Onyxia style raid, where because the skill cap is much lower in a fight like he just described rather than a typical raid fight.
Raid boss, and I totally understand that's a major thing that people love about WoW boss fights, which is missing. As I describe it, I think this fight would either need to be a dungeon boss, an unusually spectacular dungeon boss, or the penultimate fight of a raid, leaving a more traditional WoW boss fight to finish with. Maybe Galakrond explodes, but takes out some of the shield with him, and we fight a Ridicron at the top of the world tree. I don't know. But as a spectacle and as a fitting fight for the expansion, I think this, or something a bit like this, needs to happen. Having said that though, I think the dogfight and then bombing style of the dragon riding encounter that I've described here could become something of a staple when huge enemies are concerned. I feel it would be a great way of taking on a massive old god too, or just generally attacking an enemy stronghold. But what better place to start
than beating him with the power of friendship.
Fight. So that's the idea. And to be clear, that hypothetical boss fight I've given you isn't a prediction. It was just to show you how I think Blizz have already laid the groundwork of the different elements that could be brought together for a potential dragon riding boss encounter, and have had players practicing their skills on them subtly since the beginning of the expansion. I think it's definitely an idea which will have been talked about in the team. It just remains to be seen whether it's something they could actually make happen.
Yeah,
but what do you think? Could a dragon riding boss be fun? Would it be the worst thing ever made?
No,
how would you make it differently? And what about Galakrond? If not like this, how are we going to encounter him? Is there a whole patch with his name on it, or is he a timey-wimey dungeon sideways step kind of thing? Let us know in the comments below. And thanks for joining us today. If you like this video, don't thank us. Thank our patrons who give their actual real-life money to make all of our work happen. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is Slippy Toad. No, my name is Taliesin from me and Evie and the kids too. Until next time, cheerio. Do a barrel roll.
Get great stuff. Do a barrel roll. He said it at the end. That was great. That was great. I think, all in all, very exciting stuff. We're going to get Galakrond. How do you deal with a big boy like that? I think dragon riding would be a great way to do it. Look at this, guys. Maintenance, long-ass maintenance today. Get some work done today, knowing you're probably not going to get a lot of work done the rest of the week. That's what I'll do.